Sometimes I wonder which is more mad, the world or me. I chase these shadows across this broken land. I am speed. I am death. I am mad.
To be giving away these all-new McQueen Opus 150s with 0 down payment and 0% APR.
That's why they call me mad.
8 cylinders under the hood. This baby can fit so much chrome in it. Throw sand, dust, blood in the grill, and you can still get 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds flat. Witness or no. Come down this weekend and we'll throw in 5 Thunderpoons and an O-negative blood.
And remember, when you want mad deals, come to Mad Max.
Everything is connected. To learn anything, you have to build on what you already know. Whether it's science, art, or philosophy, we can connect everything to anything. So let's learn anything. Let's find those connections and let's build our intuition. Welcome to Entuition. I'm your host, Evan Noce, and I claim that every form of machine you have ever used required either water or air in some part of the process to function. It's a bold claim that, as far as I know, has only one exception, but we'll get to that later. Aside from that exception, that's a lot of machines. I mean, we're talking cars, trains, computers, drills, TVs, planes, phones. The list is endless. Now let me clarify what I mean by required to use water or air. I don't mean water-powered phones. What I mean is that anything that requires power to operate needs some form of water or air to convert stored energy into the power needed to make that machine run. Allow me to explain. From our episode on energy and power, we learned that power, from a scientific standpoint, is the amount of energy used per second. When we run appliances like toasters and light bulbs, they use an amount of energy over the course of how long they are on. Today, we are discussing how we generate the power used by appliances and other machines. Let's begin with the first machine the world ever invented, life. Plants and animals have converted, stored, and used energy for millions of years before the wheel was invented. Today we still use these machines whenever we use a crank-powered flashlight or bicycle. Considering how much water we consume on a daily basis, it's no secret water is the key to the human body's success. But why is what will give us some insight into what's so special about water. On the surface, water is a simple molecule, formed with 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. However, this bond between hydrogen and oxygen is crucial to water's importance. You see, hydrogen and oxygen are bonded with what's known as a covalent bond, which in essence means the electrons orbiting each nucleus are shared, giving more stable configurations dictated by quantum physics. Hydrogen only has 1 electron though, and since electrons are negatively charged, when the hydrogen shares its electron, the rest of the atom becomes positively charged. This makes water a polar molecule, meaning it's like a magnet. It has a positive and a negative side. And like magnets, water is really good at attracting other things, including itself. I do declare I am positively magnetized by that tall glass of water over there. What makes water so difficult to boil is a mixture of two properties, specific heat and heat of vaporization. Both of these properties come from the fact water is polar, since it acts like a magnet to itself and requires more energy to break apart water molecules from one another than other fluids. Specific heat is the amount of energy required to raise the temperature by 1 degree. Having a high specific heat means it takes more energy for water to increase or decrease in temperature. This is part of the reason why the coast tends to be more temperate than inland. The ocean acts like a big thermal battery and keeps the water colder during the morning, even after the sun has risen, and warmer in the evening, even after the sun has set. Heat of vaporization is the amount of energy required to convert water into steam. If you record the temperature of water as it heats up, it will plateau around 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, the energy added to water is being used to convert water into steam and not to raise the temperature. All right, so now that we have a grasp on why water could be so important, let's get back to how the human body uses it to create power. From our lesson on chemistry, we learned that atoms and electron configurations have different levels of energy. Certain configurations have more energy than others. We can think of this as stored chemical energy that can be released when we configure the atom in a different way. Though I could do an entire season on the way the human body breaks down food, I'll condense it down to one chemical reaction: ATP and ADP. ATP, adenosine triphosphate, is a molecule that has a high chemical energy that when converted into ADP, adenosine diphosphate, releases energy for the cells in your body to function. The kind of reaction that converts ATP into ADP is called hydrolysis because it requires, you guessed it, water. The body can also reverse this process to store energy, like from breaking down the food you eat, which converts ADP back into ATP and some extra water. Think of it like a bunch of plastic building bricks, which will not be named for the sake of trademark. The bricks click into one another, creating a larger brick, which continues to stay that way until we pull the bricks apart back into individual pieces. This process is reversible, so we can do it again and again without end, putting the bricks together, pulling them apart. Now let's add the energy idea to this example. Imagine the bricks have a spring between them. It would require a lot of energy to push the bricks and spring together until they finally connect. It would still be stable in this configuration, but there is some stored energy. Then when you take the bricks apart, the spring releases its energy, flying the bricks apart. This is similar to what's happening with ADP and ATP. Our body is constantly pushing bricks together when we eat and letting them fly apart when we need energy. And the final takeaway is this: the human body is a machine that converts chemical potential energy into mechanical energy in the form of useful work such as walking, running, hammering, carrying, etc. Let's move forward in time from the prehistoric to around 6,000 years ago to the birth of civilization. Many historians will argue what can be considered the first civilization, but almost everyone is in agreement about what resource was critical to their success: water. Streams and rivers carried a consistent supply of water necessary for plants and human consumption. Thousands of years later, the speed of rivers and streams was harnessed by water wheels, converting the gravitational potential energy of rivers into kinetic energy. Early water wheels were most likely used by blacksmiths to churn bellows and keep flames hot, but water wheels have popped up in almost every civilization known to history, from the Romans and Chinese for flour mills to Europe during the Middle Ages for mining and cloth production. Even today, we have huge hydroelectric dams that convert massive amounts of water into electrical energy using a type of water wheel. And that brings us now to the Industrial Revolution and the steam engine. Just about every engine ever invented follows the same core principles developed in the Industrial Revolution, from steam engines to trains to car engines. Granted, the engine under the hood of your car is far more complex than the single-cylinder engines invented in the 18th century. The basic principle of an engine is to harness the fact that when gases like air or steam are heated, they increase in pressure. This is known as the Gay-Lussac, don't you dare laugh, or the ideal gas law. When in a contained space, heating a gas causes gas particles to bounce around the space more frequently, yielding a higher pressure. High pressure areas always want to flow to low pressure areas. So, if we put something pushable in front of a gas, it will expand to relieve the pressure and create kinetic energy. Think about it like a balloon. When we fill a balloon with air, the contained gas is at a higher pressure than its environment. When we let go of the balloon, the weak spot of the neck of the balloon creates a jet of air streaming out. Now imagine putting a straw into the neck of the balloon and a small piece of paper in front of that straw. Since the paper is still the weak spot, the pressure inside of the balloon will shoot the piece of paper out. The piece of paper is the piston in this case, a well-crafted, often cylindrical obstruction that, when pushed, can create linear motion. Then, we use a series of wheels, gears, and belts to convert that linear motion into a steady form of rotational energy, which can be used to power mills, saws, trains, and cars. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break, but first let me pose this question. If our engine is only capable of pushing the piston, how do we get it back into place so that the engine can push it again? Hey, Jimmy, my car's making a weird noise as I back out of the driveway. Can you take a look at her? Sure, Mr. Lee. Let's see what we got. Your carburetor doesn't look good. What is it? It's the thing responsible for creating the proper ratio of fuel to air to make the right conditions for a spark to ignite the fuel. But that's not important right now. Surely you can fix it. Jimmy can fix it. And don't call me Shirley. Jimmy thinks if we replace that and rotate your tires, then Bob's your uncle. My uncle's name is Frank. Frank Lee? I don't give a damn. How long do you think the repairs will take? Jimmy says 3 or 4. Hours? Days? Months? Maybe 5. Jimmy wants to check one more thing. Hand me that ladder. Oh, Jimmy, down! Welcome back. Before the break, I posed a question that could break our engine. If the engine can only push, how do we pull the piston back into place? The answer is we don't pull it. We simply push the piston the other way. In the case of a steam engine, we have to carefully route the steam to whichever side the piston needs to be pushed from and drain the other side of that excess gas. But a car engine is more unique. Instead of using a consistent stream of steam, gas engines use gasoline and timed explosions to push its pistons. Thus, we have a similar but different kind of problem, like when you ride a bike. When you ride a bike, you act a lot like a car engine. You have pedals a lot like a car's pistons that are pushed by bursts of energy. Now imagine if you only had one pedal on your bike. Would you be able to move? The first push would be easy. Just place the pedal at the top and push down on it. But once the pedal is at the bottom, there would be no way to push down on the pedal anymore. When you have two pedals, we fix this issue by alternating the pedals. When one pedal is down, the other is up. Therefore, we can fix this issue of only pushing one way by adding additional pedals at different points in the rotation. This is similar to why car engines have multiple pistons and why more pistons can yield a more responsive engine. Each piston is staggered between its upstroke and downstroke to cause quick bursts of energy, and when strategically placed, give a consistent source of power. Keep the staggering or sequential rotation in mind for later. Pushing a piston isn't the only way to get energy from a high-powered gas. We also can have it spin a turbine, which is just a specially designed windmill. Windmills work a lot like water wheels. They take advantage of a moving fluid to create rotational energy. We can take that rotational energy and convert it into electrical energy from what's called an alternator. Electricity comes from the movement of electrons through something like a wire. So, in order to convert rotational energy to electrical energy, we need a way to cause electrons to flow from something rotating. The solution is magnets. Making magnets, collecting magnets, playing with magnets? No, just magnets. It turns out that electricity and magnetism are linked and are often inseparable. This connection is expressed in Maxwell's field equations, though that is a bit beyond the scope of this episode. The important thing to note is that when a charged particle accelerates, it creates a magnetic field. And when a magnet moves, it creates an electric field. If you take something that a magnet can attract, like iron, and wrap it in wires and run an electrical current through them, the iron becomes magnetic. This is how an electromagnet works. This connection goes both ways. So if a current can create a magnet, then a magnet should be able to create a current, right? So all we have to do to create a current inside a wire is just run a magnet through a bunch of copper wires, right? Well, yes and no. You see, the positioning of the wire coils and the rotating magnet have to be very precise for us to get a usable current. Think of the necessary arrangement like a wagon wheel. The center of the wheel is where the magnet is, and each spoke of the wheel is wrapped in wire to make a coil. In this case, though, the spokes aren't moving, just the center of the wheel is moving. Each coil of wire is facing the edge of the wheel, pointing outwards. As the magnet moves by, The changing magnetic field going through the wires will produce a current. There are two problems, though, that we have to solve. The first is a difference in north and south poles. When the north and south poles of a magnet run by our coil, they produce currents in different directions. We have actually developed our entire energy grid around this rapidly changing direction of currents and call it alternating current, or AC. Not yet. That kind of electricity was pioneered by Nikola Tesla in opposition to what Thomas Edison pushed called direct current, or DC. Okay, now.
Okay, that's enough.
The second issue is the fact that as the magnet gets further from the coil, it gets weaker, meaning we would get a burst of current only as the poles swing by a singular coil. Sound familiar? Just like the car engine, if we place more coils of wire staggered around the wheel, we can produce a more consistent current as the alternator spins. This is how modern electricity is produced, whether the rotation comes from water wheels, steam turbines, windmills, or pistons. Function, whether it's dissolved, pushed, boiled, or exploded. If you recall, I did mention there was an exception to my rule. One form of power that doesn't require air or water. Nuclear? Nope. We use the radiation created by radioisotopes to boil water and then push it through a steam turbine. Coal and oil? Nope. Also used to boil water and push it through a steam turbine. Solar? Yes. Solar panels are the exception. For the record, though, we have used mirrors and sunlight to boil water and push it through a steam turbine. Solar panels, though, directly convert sunlight into electricity through a photovoltaic cell. How do they work? Well, that's easy. Just take molten silicon and form crystalline silicon. Was actually discovered in Germany. Silicon can be
Why do we use the term doped? It sounds so strange.
Layered P-type and N-type
Particle
silicon.
sand
All over
I don't know anymore.
The N-types are electron.
Then the photons
dense.
come in, which are particles sometimes,
photons
but
transfer
away
some
from
of
this
that
particular
energy.
electrons
Electrons
reach an excited state by jumping the electron
bands,
Schrödinger's equation electropotential,
thus creating an electrical voltage that causes electrons to flow. Let's just say solar panels work with quantum physics. If you like what you heard here and want to learn more, the content of this episode comes in part from the book Technology, A World History by Daniel Headrick, as well as other sources which you can find out about in the description. If you would like to view a transcript or want to cite this episode, that information is also in the description. Entuition is an independent project currently run only by myself, so if you want to hear more, please share this with friends and family. Your support is invaluable. That means valuable, by the way.